welcome to another edition of Influences Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Harrischuk, and I am here today with DJ Kakekaze. And he is originally from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, now living in Winnipeg, Manitoba. DJ Kakekaze is a acid techno producer who's known for his aggressive bass lines and innovative industrial sounds. He's put tracks together like Hardcore, Boom, 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 and his EP Division. DJ Kakekaze, welcome to Influences Podcast.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Now, I love your name. I had to practice it a few times before I on the air. But where did that stage name come from, DJ Kakekaze? Where did that come from?
It actually came from, it's actually my geocaching name.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with geocaching.
I am totally familiar with geocaching, yes.
That is my username. That was made up when I started caching.
Okay, so you just kind of move that over to the production side of things, and it caught on,
Yeah, it's actually half the name is part of my last name,
okay.
which is Kakegamic.
Oh, okay.
And I just took off the last part and put in Kazi.
Kazi sounds awesome. It's got that hardcore edge to it, you know.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's why I liked it.
Yeah, totally. I totally hear it.
Let's take a little break and hear some music from you. This is Kakekaze, a little medley. Purple Sapphire's done.
And the bass goes boom, 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 boom. And the bass goes boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom.
So I've heard that your musical influences like Nine Inch Nails, Front 242, Frontline Assembly. That's what got you into producing the music you do. Um, what about those bands specifically made you do what you do today?
It actually started with Nine Inch Nails. Several years ago, they had a website where they gave you stems from their music, and you could actually remix their music. So Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails, gave you GarageBand files or Ableton Live files, and you could remix them and upload them to the website, and people would give you like a thumbs up or a thumbs down or stuff like that. So I started getting into that through GarageBand, and I started remixing his music. And I'm like, wow, I actually like this. This is fun.
Absolutely. So like I remember Front 242 from the late 80s. I'm wondering if you're also a Knights or Ebb fan.
Oh,
Because
definitely. Yes.
yeah, because I mean I remember their hard edge sound back in the late 80s, early 90s. And
Yep.
I really enjoyed that kind of music. And I'm actually really glad that I've actually found an artist that also shares that like because I've been interviewing a lot of house DJs and you know their influences are a little different than your influences. So and I could also hear it in your music as well. So I did want to ask you about that. You know, maybe the other two bands you have here, Front 242 and Frontline Assembly. And since I already mentioned, what about Knights or Ebb?
Yeah. Yeah, I love their music. I love oh, what's that one song called? Murder something?
Yeah, yeah. It's on
Yeah.
the tip of my tongue too. I can't remember, but yeah,
Yeah. But I mean, it's just so I love the bass lines. I love the hard edge of it and the drums, but yet it's so simple.
yeah,
Like it's probably drums, a bass synth, a lead synth, and a singer. And I think that's why I like it because of the simple sound, but yet it's so hard.
yeah. It certainly is. So you're originally from Thunder Bay, Ontario, now living in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Why the move? Was it musical or just other opportunities? Take us through that journey.
It's opportunities and family.
Okay.
That's about it,
All right.
really.
Okay. All good. I was waiting for the journey, but hey, journey,
Yeah,
that's all it is, right?
it's all family driven.
Okay. All good. So I know that you have indigenous roots. How has that influenced your music?
Um, Actually, not that much
No, eh?
because my influence comes from bands like Nine Inch Nails and Front 242, and I've never really had the influence from my indigenous roots come into my music.
So some of your recent tracks have been under the genre of acid techno. What's the difference between acid techno and acid house?
That's a big, broad question. There's so many genres and subgenres. It's nuts. Um, but if I have to answer that, I'd have to say an artist. One of my favorite artists is Cardo Pusher,
Okay.
and I consider him acid house.
Okay.
And another artist, Mary Vaunt, I consider her acid techno. Acid techno is just so much harder. Acid house a bit more mellow,
Yeah. It's plain and simple. Yeah, absolutely.
and
Uh,
house music is more kick and snares, and techno is just more kick.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, where did the inspiration come from for a track like Hardcore?
Um, Actually, I was on YouTube. I was watching a bunch of videos club videos and raves and just club music and people dancing in clubs.
Right.
And then I was just listening to all that music they were dancing to. And I'm like, it's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So I started producing a song like that. And I actually called it hardcore because it's hardcore music.
Yeah. No, I thought like a lot of your titles, I find that match your tracks really well. Like before coming on the air, I listened to Boom Boom Boom, and I find that more of a dancey track
Yeah.
and more of a techno track rather than a harder edge type of front 242 type of track. And I love how you know you go from one type of hard like a song like hardcore into a track like Boom Boom Boom. And I think Boom 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 was produced before hardcore. So that's why I thought maybe, I mean, what was the difference in inspiration with those two tracks?
I think it's just the mood I'm in at the time I'm producing a song.
Okay.
Um, like sometimes I'm in a hardcore, hard music type mood, and I'll start producing that type of track.
Yeah.
And I find it good practice to try different genres.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I watched a spotlight about you on YouTube, and you seem very knowledgeable about production gear, anywhere from GarageBand to Ableton Live. How did you learn how to use all that stuff?
Again, it goes back to the Nine Inch Nails remix website. I downloaded their tracks, their stems, and then I started playing in GarageBand. And it got to the point where it just wasn't advanced enough. So I switched to Ableton Live, which is more of a professional music production DAW, digital audio workstation. And then I just basically taught myself.
That's awesome. Because now they got courses out there to teach you all this stuff, and you went and learned it on your own. That's fantastic. So you produced your own EPs, singles. What about a full-length album?
I haven't produced a full length album since I started. I find these days I'm more technical about mixing and mastering.
Right.
So it takes me a longer time to produce a track and finish it. I'm just like my own worst client. Like I never think it sounds good enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I don't know. The other thing I find as well when it comes to full-length albums is who listens to those anymore, except for purists when it comes to any kind of music. I was just wondering if that was another thing you might have been thinking of as well.
It's true. I mean, I'll sometimes read about the business side of music and they say it's better to release EPs than full length albums just because they have a better chance of people listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah. People like shorter rather than longer nowadays.
Exactly.
So I totally hear that. So
So that's why I release a lot of singles because why not? I'm done the track, I'll release it.
you've done some remixing as well. You sent me a couple of tracks today, remixing. So how do you find that? Uh, I mean, I know you were doing some of Trent Reznor's stuff back a number of years ago, but now how do you find remixing now a little different, or maybe how do you find remixing a little different than producing?
Um, I like the challenge. Like I remixed for a local band in Manitoba called Plain as Ghosts, and they asked me to remix two of their tracks. And all they would do is send me some stems, like the bass line, guitar line, vocals, the drum track. And then I would take that and produce my own style of music.
Right.
But it's challenging. I mean, you try and keep their sound, but remix your sound into them.
Well, that's just it, right? Because when you're producing, it's all you. It's
Yeah.
what you want, but
Yeah.
you want to have your client in mind when you're reading
Exactly.
somebody else's track, right? So
Yeah.
hence my question. So I asked this to all my guests. How do you feel that you are an influence on electronic music?
Um, I mean, I do get compliments on my music, and people always ask me, how do you do that? How do you produce that music?" And I just say I'm self-taught.
Absolutely, because electronic music, and the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because you know, uh, not only am I a fan of electronic music, but I also think it should get more spotlight in this part of the world. And I feel that people like you should not go unnoticed. So I appreciate you coming on the program today, DJ Kakekaze. And thanks once again. And all the best in future endeavors. And
Thank you.
awesome. Everybody, DJ Kakekaze, you can catch him on Instagram, Spotify, and also other music platforms. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You have been watching and listening to Influences Podcast. Influences Podcast is written, produced, and hosted by yours truly, Jason Harischuk. Also produced by Angela Churchill, aka Purple Sapphire. My social media consultant is Christina Laukinen, also known as My Girl Tuesday. Check out Influences Podcast on Instagram and TikTok at influences_podcast. That's influences_podcast. Thanks for watching and listening.